So that means that for an x value of -2, the y is -1, -3. I'm going to do it again for the 0 just so you can understand. Y is equal to 1/2 times 0 minus 2. So for the 0, you're plugging in an x value because it's an x value. 1/2 times 0 is 0. Minus 2 gives you -2. And that's how you can fill in the table at home if you don't have one of these calculators. Okay, so remember what I was saying is that you can calculate the slope from a table. That means from here to here, how did I get there? You had to add 1. So that means that the changes in y, that's what that triangle symbol means, is 1. And now we do the changes in x. So from here to here, we had to add 2. That means that the changes of x are 2. And that's your slope. All of these mean that movement on the graph. All right, let's go ahead and plot the points. -2, -3, 1, 2, 3. 0, -2, 1, 2. 2, 1, 2, -1. Then we graph the line, arrows at the end. And from here, you can really start at any point, but I'm going to start at the left, this point right here. And then the rise means the up and down movement. So I'm going to put up or down. Even though it says rise, it could be a fall. So you go up 1. That means this is 1. You can put a +1, but it's not necessary. And then you have to go 2 to the right. Remember what I said is that since the x's on the right side are positive, that means that this movement is a +2. This also means slope. And that's the movement. This is how we moved. We went up 1 and to the right 2. We don't say just over. We don't move over 2. We have to say the direction because it's possible to move to the left. The next one is when you have ordered pairs. And you can select any of these 2 points. I'm going to select the first 2. That's -2, -3 is the ordered pair that goes together. 0, -2 is the ordered pair that goes together. And this is the formula for the slope, which says that you're going to get y2, which is -2. Subtract it. So there's the minus sign, from a y1, which is over here, -3. Divided by, and then it says x2, so I have to find x2, 0, minus is part of the equation, then y1, which is -2. -2 minus a -3 becomes a 1. 0 minus a -2 is a +2. And we have the same thing that the slope is 1/2. So given the certain situation is what slope is going to be solved for. To be really honest, you can always use the formula. So that's what I would like for you to use in case you don't remember one of these steps. This number right here is on purpose that it's 1/2, and that's the answer we got. The number in front of the x is the slope, and the equation y is equal to mx plus b. But we'll talk about that later. Negative. Let's plot the points first. negative 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 0, 2, 1, 1. Okay, so on the graph, remember we start from left to right, and since it looks like it's going down, that's why it's negative. So this is a way to verify that your answer is supposed to be a negative number because the line is going down. So from left to right looks like going down means negative. We move slope also from left to right. You can move from right to left, but what you try to do is go from left to right. That means I do the up and down movement first. Since I have to go down to get to the next point, that would be a negative 1. And now I move 1 to the right. That would mean that it's a positive 1. When you put that in your calculator, there's no way to put that positive symbol on there, so it's just 1. That means negative 1 divided by 1 is negative 1, and that's your slope. Also called rate of change. On the table, you know how I told you you can start from anywhere, choose any of the points? So that's what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to go from here to here. I would have to subtract 1. From here to here, I would have to add 1. Making the changes of y negative 1 and the changes on the x a positive 1. When you simplify that, it's negative 1, again, the same slope. And they should turn out the same. And then over here, I'm really sorry, I forgot to make that same notation that it was the changes of x. Let's look inside. We should be able to identify the slope without any work. What should it be? Negative 2. But to make sure that we're doing it correctly, we're going to fill in all this information and to practice the different ways that we can solve for slope. Those of us that have a calculator, we can go to y equals. This says negative 2. Let me clear this first. Negative 2x plus 1. Hit second, and then graph is up here. We go to the table, and it wants us to get the value at negative 1, which is 3. At 0, which is 1. And at positive 1, which is negative 1. We can go from here to here. We would have to subtract 2. So that makes your numerator, the changes of y, negative 2. And then from here to here, we would have to add 1, which we don't need to write the plus 1 on your fraction. And that makes it a positive 1. When you simplify that, negative 2 divided by 1 is negative 2. That's kind of important because later what we're going to have to do is have an equation and know how to move. Remember, this is a movement. That's why we call it M for slope. If they give you this number, we have to understand that the left and right movement is still a positive 1. Let's graph it. Negative 1, 3, 0, 1, 1, negative 1. Start from the left to right. From here, we have to go down 1, 2. That is the rise or the fall, like I mentioned last time, which is 2. And then 1 to the right, which is a positive 1. I'm sorry. A fall would be negative because we're going down. Once you simplify that, it's negative 2. For the previous formula, what we used was the first 2 points. But you could use any 2 points. I'm going to use the second points. That is 0, 1. That's this one. And 1, negative 2, negative 1. What I'm trying to say is that once you select any of the 2 points, it would still give you the correct answer. The formula says y2, which is negative 1, minus y1 divided by x2, 1, minus x1, which is 0. Negative 1 minus 1 is a negative 2. 1 minus 0 is 1. When you simplify that fraction, negative 2. Like I've mentioned, the equation gives us the answer. We're just practicing the different methods to get that answer. Zero slope. Let's graph the points. Negative 1, 2. 0, 2. 1, 2. We're going to draw the line. So this is a horizontal line. We will talk about how the equation looks like later, but we just need to know how it has the movement. Let's first do the changes of y over the changes of x. So the change of y means from here to here. It didn't move anything, so we put 0. From here to here, we had to add 1, so that means that the changes of x is a positive 1. We don't need to write the positive, so we just write 1. Zero divided by 1 is 0. That's why it's called zero slope. That means the slope is 0. Now we're going to do the rise over run, which is the same thing, only in graph form. We start over here, and we don't have to rise nor fall. That means that our rise is 0. Now our run is from left to right, and we just go over 1 to the right, making it a positive 1. That means that the slope is 0. Let's take a look inside. We've seen equations like this before. We had y is equal to 3. That means y is 3, y is 3, y is 3. Then what are the value of x's? Whatever you want. I'm going to say negative 3, 0, 3. From here to here, there's no change. That's the changes in y. And then the changes of x. From here to here, we had to add 3. So you're going to put 3 over here. When you simplify that in the calculator, you say 0 divided by 3. You get 0. That's why it's called zero slope. Let's graph the points. We're going to do negative 3, 3. 0, 3, 3, 3. We have talked about this before when we had a function or not a function. This was a function because it passes the vertical line test. And that's why the equation passes, and it is a function as well. So now let's do the rise. It doesn't go up or down any, so we do 0. This time we would have to go 1, 2, 3 to the right. When you simplify that, it's still 0. So for the first one, we use the first 2 points. For the second one, we use the last 2 points. So I'm going to choose the first and last point for this one. I just wanted to verify for you that you could use any of the 2 points and you would still get the correct answer. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. 3 minus 3 is 0. 3 minus a negative 3 is 6. When we simplify that, it's still 0. When we were writing equations in standard form, I also told you that what we could do is add a 0x. Why is that important? We still have the equation y is equal to mx plus b, and 0 is still the slope. All right, an undefined slope. Undefined is its name. That's what we call it. So I'm going to put it in quotations like this. Let's do the rate of change first. So the changes of y from here to here is plus 1. So we're just going to put a positive 1 over here. From here to here, it was 0, didn't move anything. So that means that the changes of x is equal to 0. Let's put that in the calculator. 1 divided by 0. We actually don't put that's why we call it undefined. It's not possible. It's not possible to do a division of 0. And that's why we call it undefined. So let's see what this picture looks like. We've seen a table where it has the 2 repeat or the 3 repeating on the other previous homework. But this has 2, positive 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. We draw the line. This is not a function. Remember, it does not pass the vertical line test. That's how we've seen it before. But now we're just trying to find slope. So we'll start with one point. And we have to do the rise. So I'm going to write it over here. We go up 1. So I'm going to write it a little bit to the side, up 1. And then the run is the side-to-side movement, the left to the right. And there isn't any. So that we call it 0. 1 divided by 0 says in your calculator. We call it undefined. All right, then we open it up. This is the equation. X is equal to -3. That means X is -3, -3, -3. And what are your values of Y? Whatever you want. I'm going to choose -1, 0, 1 this time. We have to do the changes of Y first. From here to here, we have to add 1. From here to here on the X's, we had no change. So that's 1 divided by 0. And we don't call it 1 divided by 0. That is the movement, so we need to know these two numbers. But the slope is actually called undefined. Let's plot the points. -3, 1, 2, 3, -1. -3, 0. -3, 1. Again, we start at any point. We need to rise 1. So that's a 1. There is no left and right movement, so we call it 0. That's how we move. We need to know that movement. That's why the slope is called M, but the actual slope is undefined. We selected the first two, the bottom two, the one on the top and the bottom. So any points that you select would still give you the correct answer. I'm going to select the first two again. -3, -1. -3, 0. And the pattern goes Y2 minus Y1 divided by X2 minus X1. 0 minus -1 is 1. -3 minus -3 is 0. And again, making the slope undefined. So if you want to remember that the equation that is not a function has a slope that is undefined.